The massive Imperial ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. It was 3 times the size of the largest human spacecraft, its golden hull gleaming under the sun. On Earth's main defense station, Admiral James Walker stood watching the vessel through the observation window. His weathered face remained calm, but his hands were clasped tightly behind his back. "They're hailing us, sir," reported Lieutenant Mark from his communication station. "Standard radio frequencies. Looks like they figured out our basic tech." Walker nodded. "Put them through to the main screen." The screen flickered to life, revealing a tall, purple-skinned being in ornate gold armor. Behind him stood other aliens of various species, all wearing similar uniforms marking them as part of the same organization. "I am Lord Darius of the Eternal Galactic Empire," the purple being announced in perfect English. "Your world has been discovered within unclaimed space bordering our territory. As per Imperial law, you are now subject to Imperial rule. Prepare for immediate integration." Walker stepped forward, keeping his voice steady. "Lord Darius, I am Admiral James Walker of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization, but Earth is a sovereign world. We do not submit to outside rule." Laughter erupted from the Imperial bridge crew. Lord Darius smiled condescendingly. "You misunderstand, Primitive One. This is not a negotiation. The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Your compliance is mandatory." "I strongly advise against hostile action," Walker replied, his voice taking on an edge of steel. "Humanity has survived countless threats to our existence. We've fought wars that nearly destroyed our planet. We've faced extinction multiple times and emerged stronger. If you force this conflict, you will regret it." More laughter from the Imperial crew. Lord Darius raised an eyebrow. "Brave words from a species that barely reached its own moon. Your primitive weapons are nothing against Imperial might. We've conquered millions of worlds. Your resistance would be—" He paused, searching for the word. "Cute." Walker sighed heavily. He'd hoped for better from humanity's first contact with alien life. "Lord Darius, let me be clear. This is not bravado. This is a warning. Humanity knows war like few others. We've spent our entire history fighting. Ourselves, nature, anything that threatened us. We've gotten very, very good at it. If you start this fight, we will finish it." "Enough." Lord Darius snapped. "You dare threaten the Empire? Your impudence seals your fate. Prepare for subjugation." The transmission cut off. Lieutenant Mark's console began beeping rapidly. "Sir, 5 more Imperial ships just jumped in. They're launching fighters." Walker straightened his uniform. He tried to prevent this. He really had. "Send the alert to all Earth Defense Forces. Activate the orbital defense grid. And get me a channel to their command ship." "Channel open, sir." Walker stared directly into the camera. "Lord Darius, this is your final warning. Withdraw now, or face the consequences. We've spent the last 100 years preparing for this possibility. Our weapons are not as primitive as you think." The only response was the launch of more Imperial fighters. Walker shook his head sadly. "Very well. You were warned." He turned to his crew. "Release the drone swarms. Activate the kinetic bombardment platforms. Show them why humanity's warnings should be taken seriously." As the first wave of Imperial fighters approached Earth, thousands of small black dots detached from hidden stations around the planet. The Empire was about to learn that humanity's warnings weren't empty threats. They were promises. The space around Earth lit up with explosions as the first shots of the war were fired. On the defense station's bridge, Walker watched the Imperial fighters encountering humanity's automated defense systems. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons, proved useless against simple tungsten rods moving at relativistic speeds. "Send a message to all Earth forces," Walker commanded. "The enemy has chosen war. Show them why they should have chosen peace." As chaos erupted in orbit, Walker's final message broadcast across all frequencies. "You should have listened to our warning. Now you'll learn why humans are the monsters that other monsters fear. The war had begun, and humanity was ready. Commander Lisa Reed watched from her stealth ship as the Imperial fleet regrouped. The first battle had been a shock to them. Losing 30% of their fighters to Earth's automated defenses wasn't part of their plan. Now they were preparing for what they called their standard subjugation protocol. They're forming attack positions, reported her tactical officer, John. 5 capital ships, spreading out to cover the planet's major population centers. Lisa smiled. The Empire was fighting exactly as their intelligence suggested they would, by the book, with no imagination. Launch our mosquito drones. Let's show them why fighting humans isn't like their other conquests. Across Earth's orbit, hundreds of tiny ships no bigger than cars emerged from hidden positions. The Empire's sensors, designed to track large military vessels, barely registered them. Lord Darius stood on his command ship's bridge, still angry about the initial resistance. Begin the bombardment. Show these primitives the price of defiance. The Imperial ships charged their main weapons, massive cannons designed to crack planetary shields. But Earth had no shields. Instead, the mosquito drones struck first. "My lord," an Imperial officer shouted. "Something is attaching to our hull. Hundreds of small objects." "Ignore them," Darius commanded. "They're too small to damage an Imperial warship. Fire the main cannons." The Empire's weapons unleashed their power directly into Earth's kinetic defense grid. Massive tungsten plates absorbed the energy, then split apart into thousands of hypervelocity projectiles, turning the Empire's own power against them. "Shields failing," the Imperial officer cried. "These impossible primitives." The mosquito drones activated. Each one carried a simple weapon, a shaped charge designed to punch through hull armor. No shields meant no protection. Hundreds of small explosions rippled across the Imperial ships. Lisa's voice broadcast across all frequencies. "Attention, Imperial fleet. You're probably wondering why your shields failed. Those small objects you ignored. Electromagnetic pulse generators. Crude by your standards, but effective. Here's another human lesson. Size doesn't always matter." In his damaged flagship, Lord Darius raged. "Launch all remaining fighters. Overwhelm them with numbers." "Bad move," Lisa muttered. She pressed a button on her command chair. "Release the wasps." From Earth's surface, thousands of small, agile fighters rose into space. Unlike the slow, heavily armored Imperial fighters, these were fast, lightweight, and piloted by humans who'd trained their entire lives for this moment. "Remember your training," Lisa broadcast to her pilots. "They're stronger but slower. Use that against them." The space battle that followed was unlike anything the Empire had seen in its 10,000 years. Human fighters darted between Imperial formations, breaking up their careful attack patterns. The wasps struck from impossible angles, their pilots pulling maneuvers that would kill most alien species. "How are they flying like that?" an Imperial commander demanded. "Their bodies should black out from such forces." "That's why we built our fighters around the pilot," Lisa replied on an open channel. "You build your ships to look impressive. We build ours to win." The battle lasted less than an hour. 3 Imperial capital ships were crippled by the mosquito drones. Their fighter screen was decimated by the wasps. Only Lord Darius's flagship and 1 other ship remained combat-capable. "Impossible," Darius whispered, watching his mighty fleet fall to what he'd dismissed as primitives. "We are the Empire. We cannot be defeated by—" "By what?" Lisa interrupted, her ship decloaking right in front of his bridge. "By humans. We warned you. We told you we knew war. Your empire has grown soft, fighting only weak enemies for thousands of years. But humans, we fight everything, even ourselves, especially ourselves." She opened a channel to all Earth forces. "All units, execute final attack pattern. Show them why Earth is classified as a death world." The remaining Imperial ships soon found themselves caught in a crossfire of kinetic weapons, EMP bursts, and swarm attacks. Their rigid tactics fell apart against human unpredictability. As his ship's systems failed one by one, Lord Darius finally understood. These weren't primitives. These were survivors, shaped by countless wars into something the Empire had never faced before. The Empire had made a terrible mistake, and this was only the beginning. General Thomas More stood on the bridge of Earth's first real warship, the EWS Retribution. Built in secret over the last decade, it incorporated everything humans had learned about space warfare. Now, after capturing 2 Imperial vessels, they'd added alien technology to their own. Status report on Operation Thunderstrike. Moore commanded, his voice firm but calm. Captain David Ross checked his display. Sir, our fleet is ready. We've reverse-engineered their jump drives and installed them on all 30 ships. Each crew has spent 3 months training with the new tech. Moore nodded, looking at the massive holographic display showing their first target. An Imperial supply base. Begin the operation. Show them what happens when humans go on the offensive. Unlike the Empire's predictable tactics, humanity's first strike came from multiple directions at once. 10 ships appeared above the base. Another 10 emerged from behind the system's moon. The final 10 dropped out of jump space practically inside the base's defense perimeter. The Imperial base commander barely had time to realize they were under attack before human drones swarmed his defenses. These weren't the simple mosquito drones from Earth's defense. These were new, more deadly versions built with Imperial technology. Sir, an officer called out to Moore. Imperial defenders are responding exactly as predicted. They're forming their standard defensive pattern. Moore smiled grimly. Execute Phase 2. Let's show them how humans adapt their enemy's technology. The Imperial ships raised their energy shields, expecting the same kinetic weapons humans had used before. Instead, they faced something new. Human-modified Imperial weapons, their own shield technology, twisted and improved by human engineers, now turned against them. Impossible. The Imperial base commander shouted as his shields failed. How did they modify our tech so quickly? Moore's voice came over all channels. Your empire has used the same technology for 1,000 years. You forgot how to innovate. Humans, we take apart everything we find. We improve it. We weaponize it. Your worst nightmare isn't that we beat your weapons. It's that we're now using them better than you do. The battle was brutally short. Imperial ships, caught between multiple attack vectors, couldn't maintain their rigid formations. Human vessels, smaller and more maneuverable, darted between their lines, striking with modified Imperial weapons that bypassed their defenses. On the Retribution's bridge, Captain Ross reported, Sir, enemy resistance is crumbling. Their commands are in confusion. They keep trying to find the pattern in our attacks. That's the beauty of it. Moore replied. There is no pattern. Each ship commander has full authority to adapt and improvise. The Empire can't predict what we'll do because we don't know ourselves until we do it. As the last Imperial ship fell, Moore ordered the final phase. Marine dropships launched from the human fleet, carrying troops in powered armor. Another human innovation that had shocked the Empire. Begin data extraction, Moore commanded. Download everything from their computers. Our tech teams back home can use every scrap of Imperial knowledge. The Empire had expected humans to be primitive warriors, easily crushed by superior technology. Instead, they found an enemy that transformed their own weapons into something new and terrifying. Each captured piece of Imperial tech became a new tool in humanity's arsenal. Sir, Ross reported, base is secure. We found their shipyard plans. We can start building our own versions of their capital ships, with improvements, of course. Moore nodded, already planning the next strike. Send word to Earth. Operation Thunderstrike was successful. And send a message to the Empire. This is just the beginning. You should have listened to our warning. As the human fleet prepared to jump to their next target, Moore reflected on how quickly things had changed. The Empire had thought they were the teachers, coming to show primitives their place. Instead, humanity had become the nightmare students, learning their lessons too well and turning that knowledge against their would-be masters. The real war was just starting, and humanity was just beginning to show what they could do. The Imperial High Command Chamber was in chaos. For the first time in 1,000 years, the mighty Empire faced a true threat. Lord Darius, now bearing scars from his defeat at Earth, stood before the council. "These humans," he reported, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage, "they don't fight like any species we've encountered. They have no central command structure. Each of their ship captains acts independently, making their attacks impossible to predict." High Commander Maximus slammed his fist on the table. "How are they penetrating so deep into our territory? Our defense networks should stop them." "They're using our own jump drives," Darius explained, "but they've modified them. Somehow, they've removed the safety protocols. Their ships appear inside our defensive grids, closer than we thought possible." A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber, showing Admiral James Walker's fleet cutting through Imperial space. The human ships moved in patterns that made no sense to Imperial tactical computers. When Imperial forces adapted to one strategy, the humans simply changed tactics completely. "Our latest intelligence is disturbing," Darius continued. "They're not just copying our technology, they're improving it. Their engineers take our weapons apart and rebuild them in ways our scientists never considered." In another sector of space, Commander Lisa Reed's fleet demonstrated this fact. Her ships, now equipped with modified Imperial weapons, tore through a defensive line that should have held for months. The Empire's own shield technology, twisted by human innovation, proved useless against their attacks. "We've lost contact with 12 border systems," an intelligence officer reported. "The humans don't try to hold territory. They strike, steal our technology, and vanish. Then they return with new weapons built from what they learned." High Commander Maximus watched another display showing General Moore's forces attacking an Imperial shipyard. The humans had taken Imperial capital ship designs and created smaller, faster versions. They sacrificed size and armor for speed and maneuverability, completely changing Imperial warfare doctrine. "What about our allies?" Maximus demanded. "Surely the other species will help us against this threat." Darius laughed bitterly. "Some are watching with interest. Others," he paused, "others are starting to question why we claimed humans were primitives. They're asking if we've lied about other things too." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Empire's authority rested on its image of invincibility. Humans weren't just defeating them militarily. They were destroying the Empire's reputation. "There's more," the intelligence officer added. "We've detected human entertainment broadcasts reaching our worlds. Stories of their wars, their history of defeating stronger enemies. Our younger citizens are fascinated. Some are even calling humans admirable." Maximus stood, his face dark with anger. "Deploy the Grand Fleet. All of it. We'll crush these humans with overwhelming force." "Sir," Darius interrupted, "we tried that at their homeworld. They used our own power against us. A direct assault would be what, Lord Darius? Would be suicide. Sir, they're expecting it. They've already prepared countermeasures we can't predict." As if to prove his point, alarms blared through the chamber. On the main display, human ships appeared inside the Imperial capital's defense grid. Not a large fleet, just 3 small vessels that disappeared before they could be caught. "A message from Admiral Walker," the intelligence officer reported, his voice shaking. "It says, 'We can reach you anywhere. Remember, we warned you to run.'" The Imperial High Command Chamber, for the first time in its history, fell into complete silence. The Empire had awakened something they didn't understand. They had expected to find primitives and instead discovered warriors who had turned war itself into an art form. The Empire was losing, and they didn't even understand how. Dr. Anna Miller stood in Earth's largest space dock, watching as thousands of robotic arms assembled new warships. What had started as one factory had grown into a massive production network. Hundreds of captured Imperial machines now built human-designed vessels at an incredible pace. Another fleet ready for launch, her assistant reported. 30 ships in just 2 weeks. The Empire thought we were primitive, but they never understood human mass production. Anna smiled, remembering how shocked the Imperial engineers had been when captured. They spent so long making perfect, beautiful ships that they forgot the best weapon is one you can replace quickly. In deep space, Admiral Walker's fleet demonstrated this fact. His ships weren't as pretty as Imperial vessels, but there were always more of them. For every human ship the Empire destroyed, 3 more took its place. "Admiral," his tactical officer called out, "Imperial forces approaching. 5 capital ships." Walker didn't even look worried. Standard response: "Let Commander Reed's group hit their flanks while we hold their attention." The battle that followed showed how much had changed. Imperial ships still fought in rigid formations, still used the same tactics they'd used for centuries. Human vessels darted between them like wolves among sheep, striking from unexpected angles with weapons the Empire never thought to create. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, 3 enemy ships disabled. Their crews are abandoning ship. Walker nodded. This was happening more often now. Open a channel to the evacuating crews. Remind them that Earth offers asylum to any Imperial citizen who wants to learn our ways. Back in the Imperial Palace, Lord Darius received the reports with growing dread. Another shipyard lost. 3 more systems requesting independence. And now our own people are defecting. The intelligence officer looked equally troubled. It's worse than that. Some of our younger officers are copying human tactics. They're starting to question our traditional warfare doctrine. And the humans keep broadcasting their entertainment channels. Their what? Darius demanded. Their stories, my lord. Tales of their wars, their heroes who beat impossible odds. Our people are watching them in secret. They're learning how humans think. On a frontier Imperial world, a group of young aliens gathered in a hidden room, watching smuggled human videos. They saw ancient battles where primitive humans defeated superior forces. They watched stories of rebellion against tyranny. They learned about concepts the Empire had tried to stamp out: democracy, individual rights, the power of innovation. Commander Reed's ship intercepted another Imperial transmission. "Sir, more defectors. A whole Imperial destroyer crew this time. They say they're tired of losing and want to learn the human way of fighting." Reed had seen this pattern growing. The Empire's iron grip was failing not just from human attacks, but from the spread of human ideas. Their rigid society couldn't handle the concept of individual thought and adaptation. In Earth's laboratories, Anna Miller examined the latest breakthrough. Her team had taken Imperial shield technology and completely reimagined it. "Send this to all our ships," she ordered. "And make sure our allies get it too." That was another thing the Empire hadn't expected. Humans shared their innovations with anyone who joined them. While the Empire hoarded knowledge, humans gave it freely to their friends. Walker's fleet pushed deeper into Imperial space, but they weren't just conquering. They were spreading ideas more dangerous than any weapon. Ideas about freedom, about questioning authority, about thinking differently. The Empire made 2 mistakes, Walker told his crew as they prepared for another battle. First, they thought superior technology meant certain victory. Second, they forgot that the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun or a ship. It's an idea. And humans, we're very good at spreading dangerous ideas. Across the galaxy, the Empire's perfect order was crumbling. Not just from human attacks, but from something far more powerful, the human spirit of rebellion, innovation, and change. The Empire had ruled through force and fear for 10,000 years. But they had never faced an enemy who fought with imagination and inspiration. The Imperial Palace shook as another explosion rocked the capital world. Through the grand windows, Lord Darius watched as human ships engaged Imperial defenders in the space above. The once mighty Empire was falling apart around him. "My lord," a young officer rushed in. "We've lost contact with the outer systems. Half the Empire has declared independence. They're calling themselves the Free Worlds Alliance." Darius didn't respond immediately. He was watching a small group of human ships execute an impossible maneuver, spinning through space in ways Imperial ships could never match. "How many worlds remain loyal?" "Less than a third, my lord. And more are joining the humans every day." There the officer hesitated. "They're saying the Empire is outdated. That humans have shown them a better way." On the bridge of his flagship, General Thomas More coordinated the final assault. His fleet had pushed deep into the Empire's core systems, but this wasn't just a military victory. This was a revolution. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "another transmission from the Imperial civilian government. They're requesting direct talks with Earth. They say the military hardliners no longer speak for the Empire." Moore smiled. The Empire was splintering exactly as planned. "Send them our terms again. Freedom for all worlds. Open sharing of technology. An end to Imperial dominance." Across the galaxy, the Empire's carefully controlled society was transforming. On 1,000 worlds, people who had lived under Imperial rule for generations were discovering new ideas. Human concepts like elections, free speech, and scientific innovation spread like wildfire. In the Imperial High Command Center, chaos reigned. Half the military leaders had already surrendered. Others were arguing about whether to continue fighting. "We can't win," one admiral shouted. "These humans, they don't just defeat our ships, they turn our own people against us. My own daughter is demanding we adopt human-style democracy." Commander Lisa Reed's fleet pushed through another defensive line, but she hardly needed to fire a shot. Imperial ships were surrendering or joining her side. The Empire's iron discipline had crumbled in the face of human adaptability. Another defector, Commander, her tactical officer reported. "An Imperial heavy cruiser. Their captain says his crew voted to join us." "They voted, ma'am. Imperial crews never voted before." Reed nodded. "Welcome them in. Show them how we operate. That's been our best weapon all along, showing them there's another way to live." Back in the palace, Lord Darius received the final blow. The Imperial Council, the body that had ruled for 10,000 years, was dissolving. Young reformers, inspired by human ideas, were demanding change. "The humans," Darius muttered, watching another battle through the windows. "They didn't just beat us with weapons. They beat us by making our people want to be like them." Admiral Walker's voice echoed through every communication channel in Imperial space. "To all Imperial citizens, we didn't want this war. We warned your leaders to leave us alone. But now that we're here, we offer you a choice. Not surrender, but partnership. Join us in building something new, something better." The response was overwhelming. Across the Empire's remaining worlds, people took to the streets, not in violent rebellion, but in peaceful demands for change. They had seen how humans lived, free, innovative, always adapting. And they wanted the same. In Earth's war room, the High Command watched as the Empire collapsed from within. They hadn't just won battles, they had transformed an entire civilization. "Send word to all fleets," Moore ordered. "The Empire's military command is isolated. Their own people have turned against them. It's time for the final push." The Empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years was ending not with a bang, but with a revolution of ideas. Humanity hadn't just proved stronger, they had proved more inspiring. 1 year after the Empire's fall, the Great Hall of the new Galactic Council buzzed with activity. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered in the massive chamber built on a neutral planet halfway between Earth and the former Imperial capital. Admiral James Walker stood at the main podium, looking out at the diverse crowd. 5 years ago, he began, the Empire discovered Earth. They thought we were primitive. They ignored our warnings. Today, we meet not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals. In the audience, Lord Darius sat among the other former Imperial leaders. He looked different now, humbler, but somehow more at peace. Next to him sat Commander Lisa Reed, who had become Earth's chief diplomat to the former Imperial worlds. The Empire ruled through force for 10,000 years, Walker continued. They created perfect order, but they forgot something important. The universe doesn't stand still. Change is the only constant. Humanity's gift wasn't superior weapons or tactics. It was our ability to adapt, to change, to imagine new possibilities. Dr. Anna Miller stood near the back, watching proudly. Her research teams now worked with scientists from 100 worlds, sharing knowledge freely. The old Imperial technology was being transformed in ways nobody had imagined possible. Look at what we've achieved in just 1 year. Walker gestured to the holographic displays around the hall. Ships that combine human innovation with Imperial engineering. Medical breakthroughs using both our technologies. And most importantly, a new way of governing that respects both order and freedom. General Moore, standing with his former enemies who were now allies, nodded in agreement. The new Galactic Defense Force combined Imperial discipline with human flexibility. Young officers from every species trained together, learning from each other's strengths. But we haven't forgotten the lesson of this war. Walker's voice grew serious. Power must be balanced with wisdom. Strength must be tempered with compassion. That's why this council exists, to ensure no single species or system can dominate the others. The chamber erupted in applause. Around the hall, former Imperial citizens sat next to humans and members of the Free Worlds Alliance. The rigid divisions of the old empire had melted away, replaced by a new spirit of cooperation. The empire feared change, Walker continued. They saw our adaptability as primitive chaos. But look around you now. Every world represented here has both kept its own traditions and embraced new ideas. We're stronger together than we ever were apart. A young Imperial officer, now a student at Earth's new space academy, raised his hand. Admiral, what happens when we face the next threat? There are still unexplored regions of space. Walker smiled. Then we'll face it together, with both Imperial determination and human adaptability. We'll face it not as masters and servants, but as equals, and we'll adapt and overcome, just as humanity has always done. In orbit above, the combined fleet demonstrated this new unity. Imperial capital ships now carried human-designed fighters. Earth vessels sported improved Imperial shields. Every ship was different, reflecting the cultures and ideas of its crew. Let this day mark not just peace, Walker concluded, but a new beginning. We warned the Empire to run, yes, but we're grateful they didn't. Their mistake in attacking Earth led to something better than conquest. It led to transformation. As the ceremony ended, Lord Darius approached Walker. You know, he said quietly, when we first found Earth, we thought we were the teachers. We were wrong. Your people taught us the most important lesson of all. And what's that? Walker asked. That the strongest force in the universe isn't weapons or empire or even order. It's the ability to change, to grow, to imagine new possibilities. Humanity didn't just defeat the Empire. You made it evolve. Above them, ships from 100 worlds patrolled together, their crews no longer divided by imperial rank or species. They had become something new. Exactly what humanity had been trying to teach them all along. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never underestimate humans, not because of their weapons or tactics, but because they could make even their enemies into allies and turn defeat into a victory for everyone.